Welcome to Old Dog, Young Bull. Old school meets new wave as Joe Old Dog Mays and Charlie Young Bull Forrester deliver a multimedia discussion of all things sports. Now settle in as Joe and Charlie come strong here on Old Dog, Young Bull. Welcome back to Old Dog, Young Bull. I am the Old Dog, Joe Mays, and alongside of me, my stalwart companion in all things.
I'm Charlie Forster, the young bull here.
Yeah, if you'll know, I don't know if you can see the subtext, the title that I put under your name.
Uh,
I copied that from your mom's jersey the other night. We are coming to you. Well, I'm coming to you remote. Mama D and I are on the road in Las Vegas visiting family. This might be a somewhat rushed episode. We got to go see the Bellagio with Ma. So,
Heck yeah.
yeah, it's going
Very
to be,
cool.
they've got the holidays decorations all up. So it's a whole thing. So,
That's very cool.
yeah, appreciate you holding down the fort there in Denton. How are things with you? I understand
Yeah,
there's some good construction happening outside Patchouli Joe's.
yeah. Outside is a little bit of a work in progress, but inside, still a beautiful bookstore, and it's definitely the Christmas season, so a lot of Christmas decoration and good coffee, and yeah, everything's good inside the doors. Outside, of course, is left to the city and construction companies, but it's good inside.
Yeah, little ugly. Appreciate you holding that down, Charlie. For those who don't know, this episode, as with all our episodes, is brought to you by Patchouli Joe's Books and Indulgences. Expand your mind and indulge your senses. 221 West Hickory in Denton, Texas. You can see Charlie is recording from inside the store. It is an active live bookstore. There will likely be shoppers passing by at some point during the podcast, and that's one of the things we love. So.
Absolutely.
All right, we've got some Cowboys Raiders news to discuss.
Yeah, because you were
Um,
on the ground. You were on the
we
ground to
were
this event.
we were on the ground. It was the second time we've seen the Cowboys play the Raiders. Last time we were all together. I wish you were here this trip, but last time was Thanksgiving 4 years ago. The Raiders came to Dallas to play the Cowboys, and we were fortunate enough to be there. And likewise, this time we were Mama D and I were fortunate enough to attend the Raiders game. I don't want to make this all about me and us, but there were some interesting bits of our travel uh, that I'd like to share with the crew. I think sports fans might appreciate it.
Heck yeah, absolutely. And of course, the first time that we got to see the Cowboys Raiders, the Raiders left victorious, and of course, this time the Cowboys left victorious. So it evens out in the wash.
Yeah, David asked yesterday when we were recording Four Friends in a Book podcast. David Smith, Dr. David Smith, is one of the panel members on that podcast. He asked, "So, what happened at the game last night?" And I said, "Well, the seats were good, the food was good, the setting was wonderful, and that's all I remembered." So fortunately, him and your mom were willing to speak up and share with the audience the outcome of the game, which was not pretty. But the Cowboys offense, George Pickens is just filthy. I'm just gonna say it out loud. I apologize. My voice is still shot if you're listening. It's still not back yet from the game. So
And
anyway,
deservedly so. That's how you're supposed to sound after a Monday night football affair in Las Vegas. So yeah,
yeah,
but
and
George Pickens though, you got to pay that man. Got to
yeah,
find a way to keep him in Dallas.
absolutely. With those two, Ferguson's a more than serviceable tight end. Definitely upgrade on the defensive side of the ball. I'm hoping that this back half of the season, the Cowboys start to show what they're capable of. The defense come together, and we got the Eagles this week.
Yeah, it's a steep hill to climb, but There's definite improvement on that side of the ball, and specifically in the interior. So, um, I I would be hard remiss to say I've ever seen a defensive line um, as strong in the interior as this Cowboys defensive line is now in my lifetime.
Yeah, and I think this week we'll get a little sneak peek. It was almost like the Raiders game was a warm up for the Cowboys. With the Eagles coming to town this week, I think it's going to be a true test and see if they are ready to step in, because they're still alive in the playoff hunt. They're not in the top 7 if playoffs started today, but they're still alive. So
And coming from one of the worst offensive lines in the football in the NFL to arguably one of the best offensive lines in the National Football League, it's definitely going to be a completely different experience for that defensive line. So it's going to be a cool litmus test to see how good they actually are whenever it comes to quality offensive lines.
yeah, that run defense from Dallas was filthy. Chip Kelly gave up on the run game about halfway through the first quarter, and Ashton Genty at that point was just kind of eating popcorn, watching it. Well, no, he caught a lot of balls out of the backfield, but there was there was no place for him to go with the Raiders' offensive line.
Yep.
Um, so I will give Chip Kelly a little bit of credit. He was trying to find ways to get the ball into Ashton Genty's hands with those quick passes out to the side. Um, but yeah, the he had no time to throw down the field. Brock Bowers got hit, he delivered, but there was no time to get the ball downfield to the, couple of receptions from Tyler or receiver just came over from Seattle.
Tyler Lockett.
Lockett, yeah, Tyler Lockett. I don't know why I
Yeah.
had Crockett stuck in my brain. I knew that wasn't right. Welcome to getting old. It happens.
Hey, if you had Davy Crockett on your team, that'd be interesting.
Yeah, that would. He should be a Cowboy though. Let's
Hey,
be honest.
that's fair.
Yeah, this was you and I were fortunate enough a few years back to attend a Raiders game in the Champions Club, Section 134. Your mom and I had been a couple years ago. No, we didn't sit there. We sat a couple sections over. Met Sendog from um, Cypress Hill. Sorry.
Yeah, there you go.
Um, so it's just a great vibe. And so we decided we would spend some inheritance money, some of our retirement money, and splurge on the upgraded experience since your mom had never seen it. So we did it again. It was lovely as expected. Lots of rich food that I paid for a little bit yesterday, but that's all right. But here's the story I want to tell about this. We had a great time. We're having a great time in Vegas, great time visiting family, my sister, my mom, my sister and brother-in-law, my niece and her family, my granddaughter and her husband, whom I had not met, and their 2 kids just moved to Vegas from Spangdahlem Air Base in Germany. He's an F-16 avionics maintenance guy. Um, Absolutely could not have loved him more. Taryn Cradle, just absolutely wonderful. The kids were phenomenal. I'll brag a little bit. The 2-year-old was literally reading.
Wow.
Like mom would write down words and she would read them. So yeah, they're doing great. Anyway, it was a lovely visit with them. After we get done here, we're gonna go over to the Bellagio, see the holiday decorations with mom. She just celebrated her 89th birthday. So we will be back here in August next year, which is the worst time to come to Las Vegas to celebrate her 90th. Anyway, all that's been lovely.
Heck
But
yeah.
here's a story about the game. We got to the game, we settle in, and probably 15, 20 minutes before the game started, there was two couples sitting in front of us, and one of them reached over the seat and said, "By the way, I really appreciate you rocking representing old school Raiders." I was wearing my number 12 Kenny Stabler jersey. And she said, "I really appreciate seeing that. My dad was Willie Brown." And my teeth just dropped out of my head. It was just like unbelievable. We talked just a couple of weeks ago about the Soul Patrol when George Atkinson passed, and that week that George and Carol passed, Carol Davis. And we talked about the Soul Patrol, which was the first all black defensive backfield in NFL history, which there's so many culturally significant firsts in Raider Nation. That's part of why I'm such a passionate Raiders fan. First woman executive, first black head coach in the modern era, first Hispanic head coach, first Hispanic quarterback, first Hispanic quarterback to win a Super Bowl. Just he is Al Davis set a culture of inclusivity long before there was even a word for it. Anyway, here I am talking to Willie Brown's daughter. Willie Brown, of course, was one of the founding members of the Soul Patrol, along with Jack Tatum and George Atkinson, and I can never remember the fourth name, and I'm going to look it up while we're talking today. Anyway, part of the Soul, and Willie Brown, that iconic, I had to literally pull up the video and show your mom the video of the YouTube clip of Willie Brown intercepting Fran Tarkenton in the 77 Super Bowl, running it back 75 yards for a touchdown. The slow motion with him running with the ball, and it's just iconic. And here I am talking to Antoinette Brown, his daughter, and her husband, CJ Barrio, just absolutely wonderful people. But the thing that most touched me, and this is again part of why my Raiders silver and black blood runs deep. She said she appreciated seeing somebody representing old school Raiders, and wanted to get a picture to send to Kendra Stabler, who is one of Ken Stabler's daughters. And she said that there's this whole network of Raiders kids. There's, of course, Antoinette and Willie Jr., her brother lives in Houston. Willie Brown Jr. lives in Houston. Of course, Kendra Stabler, she's good friends with Dave Casper's kids. She said, and I just love little Eugene Upshaw. That's what they call Gene Upshaw's kid. Yeah, just absolutely. She works for Nnamdi Asomugha. He has a foundation. She
Oh
actually
wow.
works there. So the Raider, that once a Raider, always a Raider. She said that's not just hyperbole. And apparently Willie Brown was Carol Davis's best friend, and of course Willie passed away in 2019. But whenever they traveled, he was there for every birthday. And she said, "Oh, I was talking to Mark the other day, and like here I am in like Raider royalty." Um, but she said, yeah, that when, Willie passed, it just crushed Carol and she never fully recovered. She was as close to Willie once Al passed as she had been to Al. Just he was family. So literally, I'm sitting here talking to Raider royalty, and she said, well, I want your number and I want your address. I've got, there's so much, Dad's got so much, had so much memorabilia. And I know Kendra's got a bunch of Ken's stuff too, her dad's stuff, and we want it to go to people who would really appreciate it. So she said, Ron, we're going to put a package together. So I don't know if she will or not, but just, yeah, unbelievable. And I told her about your 24 Charles Woodson jersey, but that you understood the other couple that she was with, the man was wearing a Willie Brown 24. And I told her how you appreciated and understood the significance of the 24 number, which is why you chose it, not just because it was Woodson, but because of the historical lineage and Raider lore. So
Yeah, absolutely.
anyway, that was my story. That was my brush with Raider royalty.
That's so
Um,
cool.
After the game, we were talking, and I was telling her how we had just talked about the Soul Patrol and all the things that Al had done, and how much the Raiders have meant to me over the years, and the battle for that first Super Bowl, and they have the Super Bowl trophy displays, and the first one, they have a little, on all of them, they have a little story about the Super Bowl and how the game, what they did the season, how the game went, who they beat to get there, and so on the first one, they have down there, and Willie Brown ran back, historic, iconic. So he's actually immortalized on the Super Bowl trophy display.
So cool.
Anyway,
So cool.
Yeah, and then afterwards we were talking, and I was telling her that, and she's crying, missing her dad, and your mom starts crying, so everybody's crying and hugging, and just yeah. So that alone made the trip worth it.
Yeah,
Obviously,
no question.
spending time with mom, but that made going to the stadium worth it. And then there were a lot of drunk Cowboy and Raider fans that loved your
I'm
mom's shirt.
shocked. I'm shocked.
Yeah, it was bad. The When the Raiders were on offense, like on third downs or fourth, went for it on fourth. And we have to talk about that onside free kick. What the hell?
Yeah.
Anyway, but the stadium was just getting, I mean, you know how loud that stadium gets.
Hmm.
Well, it was getting that loud while the Raiders are on offense. And I'm thinking to myself, you idiots, what are you doing? Shut up. And then I looked and it's all the Cowboys fans.
Yep.
Yeah, so the Cowboys fans travel well, and they get louder. They got louder in Vegas than I've heard them in AT&T.
Yep. Oh, easily. I don't doubt that.
Yeah,
And it's always whenever the Cowboys go out west. Um, and I don't know if it's Cowboys fans travel well or Cowboys fans are embedded within those communities out there and they actually get to go and show their fandom. But of course, there's always been a connection to California with the Cowboys with OTAs and practicing out there, and that goes back to the Tom Landry era and um, so yeah, the West Coast always has been kind of the home away from home for the Dallas Cowboys.
yeah, and it showed. And your mom said the exact same thing. And of course, I was wearing my snake. She was wearing her Micah jersey, but we got some white duct tape and taped down the ones on the Micah jersey up front and back, and she wrote "Trade Jerry" on the one Micah jersey, and that got more comments, more laughs, more people stopped her, wanted to take pictures with her. Um,
Heck yeah.
so yeah, the Cowboys fans, and it was astounding how many we had our flag that you got us for a wedding present. Thank you once again.
Oh
The
yeah.
the the Cowboys Raiders house divided flag. We chose our seats based on which side the Cowboys was on the flag and which side of the flag the Raiders were. And we, displayed the flag and everything. But I was astounded how many couples were there that were one Raider, one Cowboy, and they just saw the flag and they loved it and saw us, and we were among kindred spirits.
That's very cool. What a cool experience.
But yeah, the Cowboys, they were the fans here. I think your mom said the same thing. They're just everywhere. Now, when I was in Jacksonville, the Packers fans and the Steelers fans, they travel well. They just pack up
Definitely.
and get out of cold weather and go down south.
Yep.
But Cowboys fans are ubiquitous. I mean, no matter where you go, you're going to run into America's team,
Right.
for better or for worse. Um, so yeah, they were everywhere, and you would have been proud of them. They were representing, and they were loud, trying to get the Raiders to jump off sides, and it worked
Yeah.
when they were right before the safety. 71, I can't remember his name, jumped offside or false start, pushed them right up against the goal line, and yeah,
Yeah. And nothing like, Raiders on Monday Night Football. Like the Raiders are the Monday Night Football team, so to be able to be a part of a Raider Monday night, um, and as a Cowboy fan, of course, the game lived up to the hype. Um, but really, what kind of was going through my head as I was watching that game was. Um, did Jerry actually make the right move of trading away Micah and being able to bring in a Quentin Williams and having the cap space to be able to re-sign a George Pickens and you still got an extra first round pick. Um, and yeah, is the loss of Micah really been as detrimental um, as early on in the season. It was starting to feel like it, but the pass rush still was there. They're getting production out of their rookie Donovan Ezeraku, and
yeah.
now specifically the pass rush is coming from the inside. which the Philadelphia Eagles and Kansas City Chiefs, that's been their kind of model for the last, 5 years or so. And the league is just trending more towards that way and less about the pressure on the outside, more coming from the inside. Um, and
Well,
yeah,
and
it's starting to make me rethink: was this Michael Parsons deal as detrimental a deal as earlier it was kind of perceived as?
yeah, and you said before the Micah trade, you said in our one of our very first episodes this season that pass rush doesn't win Super Bowls.
Yep.
And offensive coordinators, the league it's a copycat league and it will always adapt. And offensive coordinators, if you've got an outside pass rusher like Micah, offensive coordinators get creative and they find ways to slide the pocket and get it off to the other side, work away from that, attack the outside pass rusher with the run. There's ways to combat that. It's much more difficult if you're able to disrupt the pocket up the middle. It's much more uncomfortable for the quarterback than if you've got pressure coming from the backside with a Micah. The quarterback can make some decisions to move to the left, check progressions to the left, so on and so forth. There are things they can do. When that pressure's coming up the middle and the pocket's collapsing, folding in on you, now all of a sudden you don't have a pocket that can float with you. It's much more disruptive. So yeah, that's a great point that maybe Steven and Jerry had a good idea.
Yeah, and it condenses the field because, of course, if a quarterback has to roll out, he's not going to throw across his body and go to the other side of the field. So essentially, you affect the quarterback's decision making process because wherever he goes that way is all you essentially have to worry about, and the defense can kind of react to that. Um, and the biggest part too is if you have strong defensive tackles and you can affect the interior run game, then everything is on the outside. You don't really have to worry about anything that's happening in the inside. And so much of, you know, um, effective teams can attack the middle, but if you're not able to get to the middle of the field, then essentially it bogs down the offense and you make them essentially one dimensional. And just in my lifetime, I've never seen it. The Cowboys have been historically one of the worst run stopping teams.
Yeah.
And that has always been predicated on their inability to kind of find quality interior defensive linemen and also linebackers as well too. It seems like anytime the Cowboys get good defensive tackles, their linebackers are subpar, and then vice versa. And I feel like now they're starting to make a concerted effort, um, specifically on the defensive line for the interior, and it's a complete 180 of what they have shown us essentially for 20 years. So
Yeah,
there's a little hope.
and you saw exactly what you just described with the Raiders. Now, granted, the Raiders have one of the worst offensive lines, I think, in the league. But that's exactly what happened. It forced them. Any pass had to be quick. It essentially, as I mentioned, wiped out the run game. Ashton Genty was a non-starter as a runner, so they had to find ways to get him off to the side, which cuts the field in half. Now the defense is only having to defend one half of the field. You can have corners crashing down to intercept a running back coming out of the backfield. It just it's they, like I said, they may be onto something. Again, I'm my game of the week. Well, we'll get to that as we do our picks for the
Yeah,
week. But anyway, it was about what I expected. Unfortunately, the Cowboys' offense is exemplary. The Raiders' ability to stop the run is a challenge, and Dak is back to playing at the level he was playing at earlier in the year. He had a couple of subpar games, but Dak is, I think, the anchor of that offense, and he's a saw a story where he came over after the game. Gino was really feeling the loss and the performance of the Raiders, and Dak came over and wrapped him in a bear hug and told him how much he respected him and appreciated him. And Gino said it just meant the world. And Dak, he said, as good a football player as Dak is, he's a far better person. And I think we've seen that from him. And that's something I think that gets overlooked. Dak takes a lot of shit from Cowboys fans and from, well, any fans. But I think fundamentally he's a good man, and he's worked really hard at his craft, come in as a fourth round pick and be what I would consider probably one of the top 8 or 10 quarterbacks in the NFL today.
Yeah, I could agree with you there. Yeah, whenever he presses, um, that's one of the weaknesses for Dak. But whenever
Sure.
you allow him just be able to diagnose a defense and get the ball into their best players' hands, it normally bodes well.
Yeah. And again, we will look for I'm so looking forward to that game this week with the Eagles coming to town.
Yeah.
Okay, real quick rundown of the division leaders. The Patriots are game and a half ahead of the Bills. They're sitting at 9-2 atop with the top of the East with the Bills at 7-3. Pittsburgh is still coasting along at 6-4, but Lamar and the Ravens are chomping at their heels. They're on a 4-game win streak now. They're at 5-5, made it back to 500. They're coming after Pittsburgh.
Well, and
Saw the
Pittsburgh's also reeling with Aaron Rodgers potentially being out with his non-throwing wrist, having a little fracture in it. It's not fully broke, so surgery is not needed, but um, that might affect him, especially going down the stretch.
one thing I've noticed about Aaron Rodgers now that he's sort of up there in age, when he reacts to pressure differently than he has in the past. And I think that if he's protecting an injury, even they said they're working on pads to allow him to play, a brace to let him play and still protect the wrist. But he reacts differently when he's trying to protect an injury or, yeah. So even if he does come back, I'll be curious to see how effective he is if
Yeah,
he's able to
definitely.
come back quick. In the South, the Colts are still standing strong, coming off their bye. They're sitting at 8-2. The Jags in the playoff hunt at 5-4. Out west, Denver has a full 2-game lead on the Chargers. They are 9-2. Yeah, some people saw that with that Broncos defense. I did not. Kansas City stumbled again 2 weeks in a row. They are outside the playoffs at 5-5. We said the AFC West was going to be entertaining. I just thought the Raiders were going to be involved in that entertainment.
Yeah, definitely.
We have to wait till spring in Pittsburgh for the Raiders to be relevant again at the draft.
But 9
Um,
consecutive AFC West champions, the Kansas City Chiefs, and it's starting to look like that streak is going to come to an end, um, especially since Denver kind of stole that game from them this past week.
Yeah, and they even if they sneak into the playoffs, they've got a tall hill to climb to try and catch up with the Broncos and win the division.
Yep.
In the NFC, the Eagles are still coasting along at 8-2. The Cowboys are not out of it. This week is going to be huge as to whether or not that is how strong that possibility is. Cowboys, thank you. Cowboys are sitting at 4-5-1. Did I still have the old? Yeah.
Yeah. It's all good.
Cowboys Cowboys are almost back up. That tie hanging out there. You just like you said, there's the tie means something different, although it's starting to mean the same thing with the Packers. That scares me that it's hanging out there. Yes, it's not a loss, but it's also not a win. And come crunch time to make the playoffs, that dangling one out there, that tie with Green Bay,
Yep.
yeah, scares me.
Yep. And ties should not exist. They shouldn't exist in the modern NFL. There has to be some sort of changes.
I like my shootout idea, but yeah, that's
I agree with you.
If see if Goodell, I can get Goodell to return my calls.
Heck, they won't even
Um,
ban the tush push. So
yeah, right. And up north in the NFC North, the Bears have ascended to the top of the mountain. They are sitting at 7-3.
my
You called
preseason
that.
pick, my
Yes, you
preseason
did.
pick.
My preseason pick is sitting third. The Lions, they're 6-4 behind the Packers, who also have a dangling one. The dangling tie, they're at 6-3-1. So they're however many math games that is behind the Bears. Lions are sitting at third at 6-4.
Mhm.
So that was my pick. We'll see. That's going to be a fun division coming down the stretch. Down south, the Buccaneers are also 6-4. However, the Carolina Panthers are sneaking up on them. They are 6-5, just a half game back. That was one I did not see at the beginning of the year. Is a competitive Carolina team. Take back all the trash I've been talking about Bryce Young. He's delivering. He's doing his job in Charlotte.
Yeah. And another team that has essentially built their defense on the defensive tackle room. And that defense is pretty nasty, can stop the run, make teams one dimensional. And then whenever they go into a shootout, having a head coach like Dave Canales and Bryce Young can finally see over his offensive line and is actually, delivering. And arguably the best rookie in the National Football League is Ted McMillan.
Yeah.
They're their budding star wide receiver that's been a reliable option for Bryce Young.
Yeah, that's the other thing is Bryce Young hasn't had a whole lot of weapons to work with, and that's starting to get changed, and it's showing up on the field. So kudos to Bryce Young.
Yep.
And then out west, the NFC West, which we kind of suspected was going to be a battle.
Dogfight.
Yet I believe you picked the Rams at the beginning of the year, did you not?
I did.
They're sitting atop the division at 8-2. The Seahawks fell to the Rams courses last week. They're now game back at 7-3. And the 49ers are still in the fight at 7-4. They're not gone yet.
Yeah.
So if the
Yeah. It's just,
playoffs go ahead, sorry.
oh, I just said absolutely. Just
Yeah,
agreeing.
and if the playoffs started this week, the in the AFC it'd be the Broncos, Patriots, both at 9-2, the Colts 8-2, Steelers, of course, they would win the division, right? If season ended today. The Bills trailing the Patriots by a game and a half, but they'd make the playoffs at 7-4. The Jaguars would be in at 6-4. And then right on the bubble, all at 5-5 are the Texans, Chiefs, and Ravens. The Chiefs seem to be fading, whereas the Texans and Ravens seem to be ascending. We'll see how those play out, but yeah, the Chiefs just seem to be sputtering.
Yeah. Yeah. It's hard to count out the heavyweight though. So um, I feel like if there is a team on the bubble that's kind of fading, in my opinion. I feel like that's Houston.
Mm.
Houston's just their defense is really what's carrying them right now. Offense is just I can't trust them as far as I can throw them. Their run game is essentially non-existent, and then they're asking CJ to do a whole lot. And if they can get
Which
Tank Dell back, it could essentially evolve. But I don't see a way that Houston can essentially continue to climb, specifically because they have the Colts and the Jaguars in that division. So they're going to have to continue to play them, and I feel like they're significantly better than Houston at this point.
do you know if CJ's back coming out of concussion protocol?
I I believe he is. I know he has been practicing on a limited basis. So I think this is the week that he's going to return.
Yeah, very different team with him at quarterback than with Davis Mills. What is
Yeah,
it?
Davis Mills.
Davis Mills. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, very different offense with CJ on the field. In the NFC, the playoffs are looking like this: the Eagles and Rams are at 8-2, the Bears at 7-3, the Buccaneers at 6-4. Those are would be the division winners. The Seahawks in the run at 7-3, the Packers 6-3-1, 49ers at 7-4 would be those would be the 7 playoff teams. Nipping at their heels, the Lions at 6-4, Panthers 6-5. No, Lions are 7-4, aren't they? No, Lions
I
are
believe
six.
that's 6-4.
Yeah, Lions 6-4. Um, yeah, there we go. And then the Cowboys, of course, at 4-5-1. They've got work to do, but I still feel like they've got their destiny in their hands. If they deliver on the field, they'll be fine. But they're not at the point of having to rely on somebody else to knock them out. But
Yeah,
they've got to beat Philly this week.
one of the toughest schedules remaining is the Cowboys schedule.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, you got essentially Philadelphia, you got Detroit, you got Kansas City, you have Minnesota. Um, yeah, it's going to be a steep hill to climb to get into the playoffs, and that's really where these early losses, essentially, I feel like has sunk the Cowboys' playoff hopes. But team's improving, and that's at least a plus.
Yeah, and when you're playing Detroit and Kansas City, you're going to have desperate teams fighting for their playoff survival. So they're going to be going up against some teams that are going to not going to roll over. So yeah, the Cowboys. But again, I still believe if they can win 2 out of those 3, um, the Eagles, the Chiefs, and the Lions. If they can take 2 out of those 3, I think that they'll be in good solid shape. But they can't afford to take 2 losses out of that group, or it'd be a long shot for them to make it in.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, I kind of wanted to touch base on what the playoff matchups kind of look like at this point in time, just because
Yep.
I feel like some of the matchups are pretty fun and have some historical significance. So the AFC, of course, the Broncos, if the season ended today, would have the bye week. And then the first matchup would be the Patriots versus the Jaguars. So, of course, the 2015 AFC Championship rematch. Um, it's no longer Tom Brady versus Blake Bortles, um, but I do feel like that's at least somewhat of a fun experience. Two teams that essentially were uh, voided of a head coach after
Yep.
last season, and with a new um, signal caller, they have completely turned the ship around. So that's a fun matchup. Next one is Colts versus Chargers at this point in time. So, of course, like the old Manning Phillip Rivers matchups, um, but instead it's two coaches that essentially you kind of want to play for, and Harbaugh and Steichen,
Yep.
just two very player friendly coaches. And then lastly would be the Steelers versus the Bills, and of course, those are two historical teams that always have found their way into the playoffs and have been a part of some very good playoff runs. Um, and so that would be the AFC looking. Now, which out of those matchups would you be most excited to watch?
The Patriots Jaguars, just because that AFC Championship game was there was so much controversy surrounding it. Getting a chance to um, have a rematch of that, even though it wouldn't be the AFC Championship game, that was the one that jumped off the page at me. Although I do like the idea of the Broncos and a bye, so that I don't have to see them.
Yes, yes,
But the one that jumped off the page to me was Patriots Jaguars. When I saw that one, I smiled because that was yeah, that one, yeah, Tom Brady versus Blake Bortles. That would have literally been David versus Goliath.
yep.
Had
And it
Bortles
almost
had
happened.
it almost did. The Jaguars
Yep.
almost knocked him off. That was yeah. That one looks fun.
Yeah, I agree. All right, so here's the NFC playoff matchup. So right now you got the Eagles versus the bye week. Then you have Rams versus 49ers, so divisional rivalry. Always ends up being a quality football game whenever the Rams go and play. They're interstate rivals. Um, and then another rivalry, you got Bears Packers as the next
Oof.
matchup. historically speaking, Green Bay has always loved to run that ship. But of course, Bears sitting as the top seed right now would be a home field advantage, and that really hasn't happened much with Chicago versus Green Bay. And then
Yeah.
lastly would be the Buccaneers versus Seahawks. Um, just two up and coming teams, two quarterbacks that essentially were on those Panthers teams.
Yeah.
And um, yeah. Now, which one of these matchups uh, interests you the most?
The Rams 49ers, having grown up on the West Coast, they were always sort of a pseudo rivalry. There wasn't ever a whole lot of passion behind it, but that Rams 49ers is always, hits uh my interest. Bears Packers from a historical perspective, you're talking about the Norse division, as Chris Berman used to call it, the NFC North. That is the black and blue division, black and blue playoff teams. That would be a great one. And the Buccaneers Seahawks are two really fun teams to watch. I love the running game in Seattle with Zach Charbonnet and
Kenneth
uh,
Walker.
Kenneth Walker, um, Sam Darnold coming back. You've got two quarterbacks that were discarded by their original teams, sort of tossed to the junk heap. And every time I see a team do that, I think of Jim Plunkett being drafted by a pretty bad Patriots team, and then ultimately making his way back to the Raiders and winning a couple Super Bowls there. So I love seeing those comeback or the redemption stories, and I think that's what we're seeing with Sam Darnold and Baker Mayfield. So I can't pick one. All three of those NFC playoff games, I would be, yeah, edge of my seat for all three of them. I can't pick one over the others. Gun to my head, I would probably say Bears Packers, just
Yeah.
simply for the historical implications, and that's an iconic matchup.
Yeah, 100%. And football during January in the North,
Oh,
that's just football weather. So,
two,
and
two outdoor two
normally you
outdoor
see it at
stadiums.
Lambeau and Soldier Field is would be the host of it. So,
Yeah, yeah. Likely see some snow and football in the snow, which doesn't get any better than that.
absolutely.
All right, how your power rankings look? Young Bulls top 5 power rankings brought to you by sponsorship available.
Well, of course, it has to be Chili Joe's.
I
Um,
forgot. Yeah.
yeah. Now my power rankings, not much has changed. Um, so we can quickly go over it. Of course, Colts is staying the top. I will say after that win versus Kansas City, the Broncos have elevated to my number 2 seed. Um, I just feel like again that defense incredible, offense still has some question marks. But I like what I see so far. And the Eagles, I still feel like are a house of cards. At some point, the cards could fall, whether that be at the playoffs or the end of the season. I know AJ Brown has not been quiet in his disdain for how the offense is going in Philadelphia, and it's only a matter of time until that thing implodes.
Yeah,
Um,
that's the kind of spark that can really do damage in a locker room.
yeah, yeah, and
Yep.
if that's one of your top players, vocalizing his unhappiness, that normally doesn't occur with one of the top teams in their conferences, but they're still having to deal with that, and I just feel like it's only a matter of time until that finally reaches its climax. Now, number 4 stays the same. The Patriots still like what I've seen. Um, Especially the emergence of Trevion Henderson, kind of how he looked in college, is what we're starting to see now. Just very
Yep.
explosive. Drake May is still performing. Arguably one of the best quarterbacks this season so far. He has put his name in the MVP conversation, so they stay number 4, and then rising up to take the number 5 seed is the Rams. The Rams just look well rounded still. The defense
Yep.
is coming along, but that offense is still looking like one of the best in the league. Matthew Stafford has stayed relatively healthy all season long, and their receivers are starting to get more healthy. Puka's starting to get his legs back under him, and of course Devontae still looks like Devontae Adams. So the Rams crack into my top five, with Detroit falling out of it with their loss, of course.
Yeah. And Kyron Williams, I think, has been a very pleasant surprise for Ram fans. He has delivered and really given them a dimension that defenses have to account for. Like you said, Stafford being able to stay healthy. I was very skeptical of the Rams coming into the year. Sean McVay's done a phenomenal job. That offense is dynamic. Matthew Stafford is, I think he needs to be also, along with Drake May, definitely needs to be in that MVP conversation for what they've done, for what he's done with the Rams, but also what Drake May's done with the Patriots. You can't discount the impact that both of those quarterbacks have had on their teams this year, and both of them are at the top of their division. So
Absolutely. One's
yeah,
one's the old dog, and one's the young bull. So
that's it. Yeah, that's it. That's you got to have balance in life, as they say.
yep.
All right. Well, you want to do the rapid fire picks of the week? Before
Yeah.
we do that, I want to jump in my surprise line of the week. It's a little bit of a surprise. It wasn't as big a surprise as last week. Some of the lines were really big, but I was surprised that even at home, New Orleans is favored over Atlanta. Of course, though, that's reflective of the fact that Michael Penix Jr. out for the year now with ACL surgery. So less of a surprise, but that one still caught my eye. I wasn't expecting that. And then my game of the week is Eagles Cowboys. That to me, so much is dependent upon the playoff picture, the NFC East, the Cowboys' future, the decisions that Jerry and Steven have made with regard to building that roster. Yeah, I think that to me is my game of the week. Any lines surprise you as you looked at the lines, or any game you're looking forward to in particular besides Cowboys Eagles?
Yeah, of course, the New Orleans one is the one that's the most surprising, because of course Atlanta on paper is a better team. You would expect them to have a little bit more. Um, I really thought, a line that was kind of more surprising, is that Kansas City is still 3.5 versus Indianapolis. I just don't see it that way.
Yeah,
Um, I feel like Kansas City is um, one of those teams that's going to be playing from behind. Um, and Indianapolis is one of those teams, if they get a lead, um, they run the heck out of the ball.
yeah,
Um, and so, uh, needless to say, that's also my game of the week is Indianapolis, Kansas City. I'm
yeah,
excited to see. It's kind of a litmus test for Daniel Jones and company. See how good they fare against, the AFC champ for the last, how many years.
yeah.
So I'm very excited to watch that. But of course, anytime Philadelphia goes and plays Dallas, that's always a fun one to watch, and it's going to be hard-nosed football because both of those teams do not like each other.
Absolutely, and it's starting to get into the late fall. The weather is going to be a factor potentially at Kansas City, and Indianapolis being an indoor team that could have an impact. So yeah, this is getting in. November football is when it really starts getting footballish, where it starts seeming like the good old days.
Yep, absolutely.
All right, you want to do the rapid fire?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, I am going to let's start at the top. The Thursday night game, Buffalo at Houston. Buffalo's laying 5.5 on the road. Who you got?
Yeah, Houston, I still am just concerned. Don't like what their offense gives. The Bills have been one of those teams that have been really struggling, but I still think it's going to be the Bills. This is going to be a tall task for that Houston defense to go up against Josh Allen. Um, but I really feel like Houston's offense versus this Buffalo defense is what's going to sink Houston at the end of the day.
Yep, I am with you there. I also have the Bills. Um, Next up, the noon round of games. The Jets going to Baltimore. Baltimore favored by nearly two touchdowns, 13.5 points at home against the Jets.
Yeah, Tyrod Taylor's back. Justin Fields has been benched for the second time this year. Um, Yeah, and Tyrod going against his old team is kind of a fun little storyline. Of course, he started his career in Baltimore, but of course, Baltimore is one of those teams that's on the up and up. I think Pittsburgh should watch out because Baltimore's starting to find their footing. So I got Baltimore winning this game.
Yep, me too. I think it's going to be a blowout, 14 point or 13.5 points. Isn't enough to even tempt me to consider the Jets.
Fair.
Uh, Steelers going into Soldier Field. Chicago's favored by 2.5 points, so bookmakers are calling it very close. Who you got in this old school matchup?
Yeah, it's been surprising to see Chicago pull out these low scoring affairs and close games. They got a lot of game winning drives under their belt so far, and Ben Johnson has kind of steered that ship in the right direction. With that being said, I think the Bears are going to pull this one out. If Aaron Rodgers plays, I could potentially see Pittsburgh pulling the upset here. But if Aaron Rodgers is not and it's Mason Rudolph, yeah, give me Chicago.
Yeah, I've got Chicago as well. I'm a little concerned about Pittsburgh's running game and their ability to stop a uh, um, Caleb Williams, John Blank, Caleb Williams, who's gaining in confidence seemingly week by week with Ben Johnson there, providing an atmosphere to allow him to grow and start to reach his potential. So I'm really liking what I'm seeing out of Caleb Williams. I get the Bears also.
Yeah, and that Dennis Allen defense is leading the league in turnovers. So,
Yeah.
and they're of course without their starting cornerbacks and Kyler Gordon um, and Tyler Johnson. So, it's going to be interesting to see whenever they get healthy how good they can actually look on both sides of the ball.
Yep. I'm with you there. Next up, New England at Cincinnati. New England favored by 7.5.
Yeah. Jamar Chase, of course, is serving that suspension for spitting on Jalen Ramsey.
Yep.
Even with Jamar Chase, I don't think I could pick him. New England's looking as good as they possibly can with the weapons that they have. It's going to be impossible for this Bengals team to stop them.
Yeah, I keep waiting for the Patriots to hit a flat week. But even if they hit a flat week, I don't see enough in Cincinnati to knock off the Patriots. I get the Patriots as well. Detroit is favored by 10.5 over the New York Football Giants coming into Detroit Ford Field this week. Who do you got? Giants at Lions.
Man, Jameis almost beat Green Bay, and that was super shocking. But of course, Jameis ended up throwing a game-losing interception as normal. Um,
Jameis got to be Jameis.
yeah, yeah, you go as far as he can throw, and um, yeah, whenever that season he went 30 for 30, and that was 30 touchdowns, 30 interceptions. That's the absolute Jameis Winston experience. So, give me Detroit. I feel like they'll bounce back. New York, of course, without a head coach and without their starting signal caller, it's going to be hard for them to win.
Yeah, I am. I'm with you there too. I've got the Lions taking this fairly easily. Too many weapons out of New York are on the sidelines. Yeah, love to see it. Miss the exciting Giants, but looking forward to them next year. But I get the Lions here. Okay, Minnesota. The Vikings go into Green Bay. Green Bay is favored by almost touchdown, 6.5 at home against the Vikings.
Yeah, this it's a rough time to be a Vikings fan. You look at Daniel Jones, who was on that roster last year, of course, leading the Colts, and then you look at Sam Darnold, who was also on that team, leading the Seahawks, and they got to deal with the J.J. McCarthy experience, and that's not boded well for them. Green Bay, of course, is reeling. They lost their best player. Yes, that best player is Josh Jacobs.
Yep.
Luckily, he is not going to be out for too long. He avoided too serious of an injury, but he is going to miss this game. So I feel like that's going to very much so hurt Green Bay in this game. But I still got Green Bay pulling it out. So give me Green Bay versus the Vikings.
All right, this is my upset of the week. I've got the Vikings here. I look at JJ McCarthy a little bit like I looked at Drake May last year. Lots of potential, lots of possibilities. Not really sure what you got. It's gonna take some time to develop, and that time has got to come in the form of snaps in live fire and in action. I think we've seen glimpses of what JJ McCarthy could be, and I think that we're due for a game where he delivers. I don't have any confidence left in the Packers, particularly with their leading rusher out, Josh Jacobs, beloved Raider, once a Raider, always a Raider. Um, so yeah, I don't have a lot of confidence in the Packers. So I've got the Vikings upsetting the Packers on the road in Lambeau Field this week.
Yeah, it should be a fun game. Always good
Yep.
whenever the Packers face the Vikings.
NFC North, man, that's where the fun's at.
I agree.
Next up, Indianapolis at Kansas City. Kansas City laying 3.5 against the Colts. What are you thinking here?
Does this finally sink the ship? This is a must-win game for Kansas City.
Yep.
Unfortunately, this is also a litmus test for Indianapolis, like I talked about earlier. I feel like you got to go with the hot hand, the team that's playing really good football, and that would be Indianapolis. I think that their offense is built around the run, one of the best offensive lines in the game, and that really can put a lot of pressure on Kansas City to maximize their drives, and I don't know if they have it in them. So give me Indianapolis in this game.
Yeah, this one, I think when you look at Indianapolis coming off a bye, you've got, were they at bye? They were bye last week, right?
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah, coming off a bye, you've got a dynamic. Yeah, of course it is. I know they were coming off a bye because JJ McCarthy was my starting fantasy quarterback while Daniel Jones was sipping Mai Tais somewhere in Indianapolis, probably.
Yeah.
Um, you've got a really dynamic Colts offense. That Colts defense has been stout. It's delivered, done what it needed to do. They picked up, of course, Sauce Gardner at the trade deadline. You've got an offensive line that's dynamic. Um, this will be a test of whether or not Daniel Jones is ready to lead this team into the teeth of the playoff hunt or into playoff battles. Was Shade Steichen as the coach and Daniel Jones, we're really going to see what they've got, what they're made of, because you've got a mangy dog backed into a corner with the Kansas City Chiefs. I think that they know that it's time to put up or shut up. I don't think that Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce and those receivers, I don't think they're ready to shut up yet. So in spite of on paper, all of the indicators looking like a Colts win in Kansas City, I think that Kansas City takes its stand in Arrowhead this week. And I think that they are going to pull out a win against the visiting Colts.
Hey, the desperate team theory. A
That's it.
team that has to win, normally comes out with their A game. So
Desperate team, proven veteran quarterback, proven veteran coach. The pieces are there for a Chiefs upset. We'll see if well, actually they're favored at home. But that one kind of surprised me too that they're favored. But anyway, yeah, I see them as a desperate team. So all right, moving on. Seattle, the Seahawks are traveling to Nashville to play the Titans. They are favored by 13.5 on the road.
yeah. Tennessee's on their way to get back-to-back number one overall picks, and what they do with it, I have no idea. But Seattle, of course, dealing with a gut-wrenching loss last week. I got a feeling they're going to come out um, with a lot of authority. I got Seattle winning this game.
Yeah, I do too. I've got the Seahawks taking this. I'm with you. I do believe that Cam Ward has probably earned um earned the position to be the franchise quarterback at least for another year or two. I think given what he's got on that team around him, I think he's shown flashes of he could be the guy. He could be him, as they say, get the Hemi. Um, but yeah, so I don't know if that Tennessee would go quarterback again at number one. I think they try to put some weapons around him, but yeah, I still not enough. I've got the Seahawks taking this on the road,
Yeah, he'll
fairly
he'll look a
handily.
lot better in Mike McCarthy's system next year whenever he's finally hired.
Yeah, somebody's got to coach that Tennessee team. My goodness. All right, Jaguars traveling across country, going to Arizona at 3 o'clock, the first of the afternoon, later games. Jaguars at Cardinals. What you thinking? Jaguars are favored by 2.5.
Cardinals just look flat. They just look like they've given up on the season. Of course, their offense is one of the main reasons why they're having to give up. Kyler Murray is happy to be playing Call of Duty instead of playing offensive football for the Arizona Cardinals, and we know what Jacoby Brissett is. So Jacksonville, I feel like is due for a win. So give me the Jaguars.
Yep, I've got the Jaguars taking this one as well. I think they are queued up and ready for a playoff run. We'll see if Trevor Lawrence can withstand the heat, but the weapons around him are doing their job. Travis Etienne is looking like an RB1 in Jacksonville, so I don't think they'll make a deep playoff run, but I think they're ready to get there. So I've got the Jaguars as well. Next up, the Cleveland Brownies coming to Las Vegas to play my beloved Raiders. The Raiders are actually favored by 3.5 against the Browns. Is that optimistic thinking, or is that what's going to happen?
Yeah, one little caveat about the Cleveland Browns, it is absolutely criminal that this past week they had to put in Shedeur Sanders, and that was the first time he had ever played with the first team offense. They gave him zero practice reps going into the season and also during the season as well too with the ones. So he was thrusted into a position of failure because of lack of preparation, and it definitely showed against Baltimore. However, I feel like this Cleveland defense, I feel like, is very similar to the way the Cowboys have been built. Their interior rush with their first round pick this past year, Mason Graham, has been significantly improved. Of course, they have one of the best edge players in Myles Garrett.
Yep.
Um, I feel like it's going to give the Vegas Raiders a lot of trouble on offense. And if they can get any sort of semblance in the offense for Cleveland, I think it's going to bode extremely difficult for the Raiders to win. With that being said, I'm going to have to pick the Browns in this matchup.
Yeah, I understand. Hurts my soul to hear you say that, but I kind of saw that coming. Quinshon Judkins in Cleveland. I look, unfortunately, for him to have a day in Allegiant this week, but I can't pick the Browns. If the Browns beat the Raiders this week, I'm picking the Raiders. If the Browns beat the Raiders, then I don't even know what the next step is. You can't keep firing and hiring head coaches every year. I'm not sure that Pete Carroll, as dynamic as he is, I'm hoping that inside the locker room, we're seeing some culture creation being done that will reflect on the field as um, talent starts being added to the roster. Um, they definitely need help. But I can't pick them. I can't pick the Browns over them, even despite the strength of that Browns defense. So I get the Raiders sneaking out an ugly one, probably somewhere in the 17-16 vicinity. But yeah, I'm gonna go with the Raiders and Chip Kelly finding ways to get Ashton Genty out into space.
Oh, I hope so. I hope so.
Next up, my game of the week, Philly traveling to Arlington to take on the Dallas Cowboys, America's team. What are you thinking? Where's your level of optimism?
This is a must-win game for Dallas if they want to have any sort of hope for any sort of push. Um, Philadelphia, like we've talked about, I feel like they are a house of cards waiting to collapse. And I feel like this is the week that could potentially start. So, give me Dallas in this game. I think Philadelphia is still going to lean heavy on the run. And I feel like Dallas has started to rebuild their defense to stop that run game. And if they can affect it and stop it and force Jalen to throw the ball, I don't know if his receivers are happy enough to catch it. So give me Dallas in this one for the desperate team theory.
I am with you with the desperate team theory. They're playing at home. They had for all intents and purposes, a practice game against the Raiders to integrate some of their new defensive weapons into the um, into the scheme. So they've had some on-field experience. I think that they're going to run into a Philly team that is going to try and pound the ball with Saquon, and you've got a Cowboys team that is going to be prepared for that. I'm a little concerned about the Cowboys' pass defense and the defensive backfield. Got some concerns there against some of those Eagles receivers, but I believe that the Cowboys defense is going to be able to make Jalen uncomfortable by crushing or crashing the pocket from the middle. But he has to start going out to either side. He's not always the most comfortable. That's when he starts making mistakes. Anyway, long way around to say I agree with you. I've got the Cowboys winning this one at home in probably a fairly high scoring, maybe up into the high 20s, low 30s. Um, Very close game, but the Cowboys are going to find a way to win this at home against the hated Eagles.
Who's stopping wide receiver one, George Pickens? Who's
Yeah.
stopping them?
Oh, snap. Wide receiver one.
He
Yeah,
is.
that's CD on blast.
Hey, trust me, you know me. You know CD's arguably my favorite player in the National Football League.
Yep.
He has not been the best receiver on this Cowboys team.
Too many
There is
drops.
there's a 1-and-1, and at that size and speed and physicality, you just don't normally see that, and that's what
Yep.
George Pickens brings to a team. I can't believe Pittsburgh traded him away for a third round pick because he could definitely be impacting that Steelers team if they still had him.
Yeah, well, keep in mind his quarterback was Kenny Pickett, who's now backing up Geno Smith in Las Vegas. So,
Sure.
yeah, I don't think George Pickens had a quality quarterback to work with. But yeah, surprised to hear you call him the wide receiver one, but can't argue with the production. Too many drops from CD this year.
He's gonna get paid like it,
Yep, somebody's gonna pay him.
and I hope it's Dallas.
Me too. Next up, Atlanta in the South. Atlanta going down to New Orleans is the game. New Orleans is favored by 1.5 over the Kirk Cousins led Falcons. What are you thinking?
I can't believe I agree with Vegas. Um, I think it's going to be the Saints. I think Atlanta without Michael Penix is a very bad offense, and that's not because of the talent around him. That's all because of the quarterback. And we know historically how um, Kirk Cousins does whenever it's not a noon game. And unfortunately, this is a 325 game. And I feel like Kellen Moore is righting the ship in New Orleans. It's been kind of surprising to see Tyler Shuck. I did not think he was any sort of caliber quarterback in the National Football League, and he actually has been delivering these past few weeks. So New Orleans starting to kind of steer their ship in the right direction, and I think that this would be a very significant win for the Kellen Moore era in New Orleans.
I agree with you 100%. I think it's Kellen Moore's influence in New Orleans that's making a difference. Um, I still don't know that they've got enough talent around them, even with Kirk Cousins leading the Falcons. I think you're going to see a big game out of Bijan down in the Superdome. I've got the Falcons taking this one on the road, even in spite of the ascension of the Saints. They're definitely looking better.
Nothing
Uh,
sexier than Tyler Shuck versus Kirk Cousins. Nothing
Tyler
sexier.
Shuckburgh, that's it. An old dog and a young bull.
Mm,
There you have it. There you have balance.
yeah.
How you find balance, my friend? Next up, Tampa Bay going out west to SoFi to take on the NFC West leading Los Angeles Rams. Rams favored by 6.5 against Tampa at home this week. This is the Sunday night game.
A little Baker homage right there, the team that rejuvenized his career. Um, yeah, the Rams are just a significantly better team than Tampa Bay. You saw what um, Trevion Henderson did to this Tampa Bay defense. I feel like Kieran Williams will have the same opportunities. I mean, if that's the case, then the Rams can be as balanced as probably you can get. So yeah, give me the Rams in this game.
Yeah, as much as I would love to see Baker continue to advance, I think this is going to be a fun game to watch if you've got enough healthy receivers in Tampa Bay to for Baker to feed. He can only do so much on his own. I think you've just, like you said, got a superior team in the Rams playing at home. They've got a little playoff fire in their belly, so I also am picking the Rams at home against the Buccaneers. And then finally, the Monday night game coming off of the Cowboys-Raiders, an iconic Monday night game. You've got Carolina, San Francisco. Little less little less sexy, but perhaps some nasty football could be played this Monday night.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, Carolina, one of the best run-stopping teams, and of course, San Fran, I feel like has definitely leaned on Christian McCaffrey to essentially keep them competitive this season. So
Yep.
Brock Purdy's back,
Yep.
George Kittle's back, San Fran's getting healthier. Um, yeah, it's gonna be a fun matchup. And normally on paper, I would not be excited to watch a Carolina versus San Francisco matchup. Just with the way Carolina has fought in every game, I think it's going to be competitive. I still think it's going to be the 49ers at the end of the day that's going to pull it off, though.
Yeah, I agree with you as well. On paper, this to me looked like meh, but when you start to think about it, Carolina's looking fun. 49ers are starting to get healthy. Purdy's back, Kittle's back, starting to get some of these key pieces. You get some offensive linemen back. You still got CMC that's been carrying the load, staying healthy. So yeah, this could be a good game. I also have the 49ers in the Monday night to wrap up week 12. And I would be remiss if I did not call out the week 11 results. I thought you were going to go undefeated. Charlie went 12-3, not his first 12-win week. Somehow we are still neck and neck. Charlie went 12-3 in his picks last week. In week 11, I went 11-4. It was nip and tuck there for a while. On the season, Charlie is 100 wins, 62 losses for a winning percentage of 617. Somehow my IDCs helped me out. I'm at 98 wins, 60 losses, 620 winning percentage on my picks. So we are edging toward our 650 goal. Let's see. But man, 12-3. Kudos, bro. Well
Yeah,
done.
yeah, it's quite impressive how close we've been throughout this season because it's not like we pick the same teams every week. So, um,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, the old dog and young bull rankings is going to come all the way down to week 18. So, it's been a fun year so far.
Yeah, and I think we've done a pretty reasonable job of our analyses. Obviously, some teams have emerged, and some teams have not performed as well as expected on the field. That's just part of it. But we're starting to, I think, get a good sense of who the players are, who the teams are that are going to be players in the playoffs, and who's just kind of there for entertainment purposes. So. All right, man. You got plumbers to deal with, and we're headed off to take mom to the Bellagio, see the holiday decorations. Another episode from the road. We're getting better at this, dude.
Heck yeah, absolutely. Week 12, we're getting close to some very fun football. The stretch in the winter, of course, once you get done with Thanksgiving, it's essentially all playoff pushes and teams that essentially are just fighting for moral victory. So
Yeah.
we're getting we're getting close to some very quality football.
Yeah, and regardless of how this unfolds throughout the rest of the season and going forward, again, shout out to Antoinette Brown and her husband Carl. Looking forward to always speaking well. I will always be a Raider for life. So no matter what happens, go silver and black.
Absolutely, and go silver and blue. Got to
There
bring
you
it up. Of course, if you're struggling with anything, there's always an option like Max Crosby War, call an audible. Um, suicide prevention is real, and of course, rest in peace to Marshawn Nealon. Um, but yeah, if you're struggling, there's always help. So don't give up. Go
Yeah.
silver and blue.
Dial 988. I saw all the Raiders were out there in warm-ups with their shirts for 988. I saw the Cowboys out there with their um what's for Nealon?
Marshawn Nealon.
Marshawn Nealon. Sorry about that. Marshawn, no disrespect intended. Marshawn Nealon shirts paying homage to their fallen teammate. But yeah, there's always help. Call 988. Reach out to a friend if you're a family member or have a family member or friend who may be struggling. Make sure that they know that you're available for them as well. So,
Absolutely.
yeah, moment of recognition for the loss of a member of the NFL family, and yeah, we will be back next week to talk more football.
Heck yeah. Well,
All
as
right,
we say, go silver and blue.
go silver and black. Peace.
This is the Patchouli Podcast Network.